This is me, Kurt Fernley. In many ways, a typical Aussie. Except I spend my life in a wheelchair. Now, I've never been bound to a wheelchair. It's not a restrictive thing. It opens up the world to me, and I love it. I've represented Australia at 5 Paralympic Games. I've won the New York Marathon 5 times. I've even crawled the Dakota Trail.
Every day I was more exhausted than what I've ever been in before in my life.
But I reckon I'm embarking on my biggest challenge yet. I want to change the way Australia thinks about disability. We're constantly bombarded with this image of perfection. There's this idea and this is how you're meant to look, and it's not real and it's not healthy, it's not sustainable. And I don't want the next generation growing up thinking that it is. And this issue doesn't just affect me. Today, 1 in 5 Australians are living with some kind of disability. And despite being one of the world's richest countries, many people with disability have it seriously tough.
How can we function as a light to those around the world when we continually fail to provide the support and services needed to those who need it most within our community?
In order to change attitudes, we need to understand what Australia really thinks about disability. Through a groundbreaking survey, we get to the heart of the problem with some disturbing results.
Survey found that 40% of people with disabilities had experienced harassment.
We go undercover to expose everyday prejudice and abuse.
Sorry, what was that?
Are you a midget?
Am I a midget?
I'm sorry. That's the exact shit that we go through.
Yeah.
Discover the challenges of living with an extreme condition.
I think a doctor said I was one of the 3 worst in the world.
And meet some people who refuse to be defined by their disability.
Things I'm most proud of would have to be completing the Sydney to Hobart.
I wanted to have an honest conversation about what it is to be a person with a disability in Australia. The reality I want you to understand.
Excuse me, can you help me?
This show is going to be some uncomfortable watching.
My disability is pretty obvious. It's probably the first thing that you notice about me. I've got lumbosacral agenesis. It means that the bones in my legs aren't strong enough to carry me around, so I've used a wheelchair for most of my life. It also means I'm within one of the largest minorities in Australia, one of the 4 million Australians classed as disabled. Disability is a natural part of the human condition. Yet all too often, people with disability aren't disabled by their bodies, but they're disabled by society. They look and they say, people with disabilities, they need to be independent and strong. How do you do that when you feel like you're mocked when you go outside? How do you do that when you get turned back from a venue because you're in a wheelchair and you're called a fire hazard? Often, these people with disabilities, we don't define our experience. It's defined on us. In order to change the experience of people with disability in this country, we need to know what people really think about the subject.
I think for many Australians, disability is still an uncomfortable thing, something we don't talk about. You know, we don't let our kids stare at people with disability. It's something still in Australia that is encouraged to be hidden.
So, with the help of the University of Melbourne, we conducted a nationwide survey. We asked the Australian public for their views on everything to do with disability.
Disability is not simply what's wrong or what's different with a body or mind. It is also barriers that society puts in the way that reduce people with disabilities' capacity to participate in society.
First up, we asked, do you agree with the following statement? People are likely to avoid people with disability.
Agree.
Unfortunately, yes.
Agree.
They might feel that they're going to offend a person with a disability, so they avoid it.
A shocking 48% agreed.
You know, being disabled, being someone different, people often just don't know how to handle that.
I don't believe people necessarily look down that often to notice that my legs aren't real. So I haven't noticed anyone avoiding interacting with me.
People avoid me because they don't know how to interact with me.
or how to communicate because it's different to their everyday normal. So they leave me out every time.
Next, we changed the statement to, I would stop to help if a person with disability needed it. This time, the result was very different.
Agree, certainly.
Strongly agree.
I agree.
Strongly agree.
85% said they would. I wonder if that's really the case. I think there are some disabilities which people, for whatever reason, feel less comfortable with. Disability is hugely varied. It can be intellectual, meaning a person may find learning or communicating more challenging. It can be psychosocial, arising from a mental health condition. It can be sensory, which could be a sight or hearing impairment. Or, in the case of Murray Bartram, it can be physical. Murray has cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy is a physical disability when the muscles tense up and have a disconnect between the brain and the muscles. Some people are completely almost incapacitated, and other people can be almost like you wouldn't even notice them walking down the street. For me, personally, my cerebral palsy impacts my speech, meaning I have to repeat myself quite a lot because people just don't understand me at all.
In our first experiment, Murray wants to show how hard it is living with his disability by asking members of the public directions to famous Sydney landmarks. All the time, followed by our hidden cameras.
Excuse me, do you know where the Opera House is? Excuse me, but I need the sense of help.
It doesn't start well.
She actually ran away from me, which is not really the best feeling. Excuse me, mate. Can you help me find a place? Excuse me. I need some help. I'm trying to find somewhere. Just brush me off and keep walking. Even though I kind of asked him a couple of times. Couldn't understand what I was saying, and it was a lot easier to walk off.
I don't know whether I want to watch anymore. I just... Fuck.
Excuse me, man, can you help me for a second? I'm just trying to find whereabouts is the rocks.
The rocks?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and down there.
You go all the way to the right.
Cool.
And you get to the rocks.
Thank you.
Yes! Although some people did stop to help, most found it easier to walk or run away.
Excuse me, can you please help me? I'm trying to get to Circular Quay. Excuse me, can you help me out? I'm just trying to get to Circular Quay. Excuse me. What is my directions? Please? Excuse me. You think I'm better for you, please?
It's funny, I don't feel sorry for Murray because I know that he's a tough unit and he was expecting this. I kind of feel sorry for them. I kind of feel sorry for that person that is just unknowingly missing out on a part of life that is a common decency and potentially something that is really nice. I wish he was here and we could fucking laugh about it. We don't know why some people treated Murray the way they did. Maybe they didn't realise he had a disability. Or maybe they simply weren't familiar with cerebral palsy at all. When I was a child growing up in Carcoar, New South Wales, my experience of disability was completely different. I was treated just like any other kid, and it helped shape who I am today. So in here was my classroom. Time in here was extremely happy. I couldn't have faulted a moment of my time at Carcoar Public. Just felt like you were protected from everything else in the world, that you could be whoever you wanted to be. I reckon this would be about as close as it would have came to my desk. My family were told that I would have to be moved across into kind of segregated education, and the principal, he would stand up and make the opposite choice of that, that I would be in amongst my peers and my family and get given education with my community, and that's important. It's important that people with disabilities learn to be with their peers. It's important that their peers, their neighbours, go to school with the kid with the disabilities, so that everyone kind of gets that lesson and that enjoyment and that kind of just experience of having disability in their life. It was only when I went to high school that things started to change. You see, everybody else is getting bigger and faster, and you're not. So at some point along that line, you realise that you are somebody with a disability, and then you realise that I'm different. For some people with disability, their condition may be hidden from the outside world, but for others, it's out there for all to see, and it can make things tough. We asked, do you agree with the following? People sometimes make fun of people with disability.
Agree, but I think that, and I hope that is kind of phasing out.
Strongly agree.
Unfortunately, I agree.
Agree.
I strongly agree.
72% agreed.
Certainly, there would not be a week go by where I do not get made fun of in some way, shape or form because of my stature and physicality.
You get it all the time, bully, point at, tease, because you're not the same as other kids.
I think there are some disabilities, more obvious disabilities. Definitely there's still a lot of not great language used.
Kiralee Goff and Shanae Sopp both have dwarfism. It's a disability which affects around 1 in 20,000 Australians.
School, for me, I would get midget, I would get name called by the popular boys, or I was never in the popular group, so it was crap.
There was always an incident every day. The seniors, when they were picking on me, they knew exactly what they were doing, and it hurt. It fucking hurt. I was ready to jump off a cliff. I felt like nobody wanted me around because all I would cop was harassment and bullying.
As adults, Kiralee and Shanae still experience negative interactions on a daily basis. So we're going undercover on the streets of Newcastle to understand what they go through.
I want to do this to show people how terribly little people are treated. I'm not exaggerating. These things happen, and these things happen often, and it can make or break my day.
Over the next few hours, we capture life in their shoes.
Oh, what a beautiful Saturday morning, busy shopping centre. Love it.
Newcastle's my hometown, so I want to catch up with the girls and see how they got on.
Hello.
How you doing?
How you going?
Good. Was it what you thought?
We captured the general everyday stuff, but the one incident that happened yesterday, me and Shanae both agreed was probably the most horrific thing we've had to.
Have you watched the footage back?
No. Ooh, iced coffee frappe.
Nice. Are you fucking kidding me? That old woman in the yellow shirt.
Yeah, I actually noticed when I was up at the counter. You know when you feel someone?
Yeah, you can feel someone.
And I was just like, wait a minute, holy shit. So generally on a day-to-day basis, I will experience staring. There is 2 different types of stares. There is a curiosity stare, you can generally tell, and then there's also gawking, like absolutely mortified staring. Laughing, being pointed out, like someone in a group will see us, they'll then notify everybody in that group and they will all have a giggle. Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, the bus is taking a while.
They just took a photo. Are you kidding?
Completely oblivious. Sorry, what was that?
Are you a midget?
Am I a midget? I have dwarfism. Midget's actually highly offensive.
Sorry.
No, that's okay if you're unaware. Yeah, we just got recorded.
They yelled out, hit them, hit them.
Oh,
and
get them, get them.
I heard hit them. I'm shaking. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, don't I hurt?
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
It's fine.
No, that was pretty intense. That's fine. It's fine. Do you want to stop?
No.
Just need a break. Do you want So there was a group of young kids. They had their Snapchat on facing us. We could see us. They were either saying hit them, or get them. But the fact that they were hysterically laughing, videoing us, that was one of the top 10 I have experienced. That was pretty brutal.
That's the exact shit that we go through.
Yeah.
The exact shit.
I don't think anyone really understands the impact that they
No,
have.
that video that was taken of us yesterday, I can guarantee it was shared amongst on social media or used to gain views.
Yeah.
For humiliation and to laugh about.
What would you tell them?
How dare you? Like, that's just an invasion of privacy for recording us.
If you saw and you see and you experience and you witness what happens to people with disabilities and differences and you don't think any differently and still think it's totally fine, there's something not right.
Julie and Sinead, I think they are just some of the toughest women that I've met, you know, like they are full of life. And when somebody jumps into their world, to scratch that itch of curiosity about who they are or to utilise them as a moment of entertainment for their own pleasure, to utilise them as a moment of mockery, I just don't get it.
People underestimate the impact of that kind of abuse. It's not criminal. Nobody takes action on it. It doesn't meet the threshold of an incident report, but it's very impactful.
Negative comments wear people down, they reduce self-esteem, and even more profoundly, they get into the cells. They affect people's health, well-being. They make people with disabilities sick.
There's no denying it. The attitudes of others can prevent people with disability from engaging fully in society. And sometimes these prejudices can put people's very future at stake.
He just keeps on applying. One day, Mum, they'll give me a job, give me a chance.
Today, the Disability Discrimination Act means it's unlawful to discriminate against another person on the grounds of disability, and that includes in the workplace. This critical piece of legislation was introduced back in 1992, but only after a huge battle by activists like Martin Stewart. Martin, who was blind from birth, was arrested over 30 times, and it wasn't just for protesting for equal rights at work.
They argued that making love in public was the only way of achieving sexual equality for the disabled.
He's challenged everything, whether that be his interactions with the police or shagging on a beach somewhere in front of everyone, and challenging these ideas of disability being this infant experience that doesn't change, being this innocent experience that we should shelter. I want to catch up with Martin to see what he thinks the state of play is today. Do you think that we've done a good job educating the community of what disability is?
No, because the message hasn't cut through. Australia has a very fairness type ethos and culture. But you ask the average person and they'll say, oh yeah, give them a go, do the right thing. The problem is there's a lot of talk of fairness, but it's not actioned. So it's my view that that's the turnaround that needs to happen, and it is gradually occurring, but not fast enough.
It's nearly 30 years since activists like Martin helped bring about the Disability Discrimination Act. Yet today, many people with disability are still being excluded from the workforce.
Unemployment rates for people with disabilities have been double the rate for people without disabilities for decades, and it hasn't changed.
I want to know why. What do Australians really think about disability in the workplace? We asked, do you agree with the following? People with disability aren't as effective at work compared to people without disability.
Agree in a way, but there's always going to be a way to work around it.
I would say half-half.
I don't know the answer. They do different work.
They can sometimes be too intimidated by the fact that I am deaf, have a doctorate, have a high-level position, have an Australian honour. It just doesn't gel with them that there's a possible combination.
In my opinion, we do a better job at work, and the reason I think that is because we become skilled at problem solving.
I've done a lot of employing people. If I had 3 people with the same qualifications sitting there and one person had a disability, I'd take the person with the disability. They've actually got more than the people who don't.
In our survey, 15% of the respondents agreed that people with disability aren't as effective at work.
What that tells us is that a high proportion of Australians still have low expectations about what people with disabilities can achieve in the workplace. Part of those low expectations are things like they're in a wheelchair or they have an accident and that means they can't be a doctor because we have no imagination for how we can adjust things to enable those participation. It's what you can't do rather than what is possible.
One disability which is often not welcomed by employers is autism. In fact, the unemployment rate for people with autism is almost 6 times higher than those without disability.
Yeah, with autism, we are communicating. It's a different way type thing. Like sport and stuff, I'm usually pretty good with that, but I find when it comes to small talk and everything, it's...
Despite applying for over 150 jobs, James has never found regular work.
I've had, I think probably 15. 15 interviews type thing. And I didn't really hear back from them. That's usually what happens, type thing.
For James's mum, watching her son struggle is heartbreaking.
And he just keeps on applying, keeps on applying. One day, Mum, they'll give me a job, give me a chance. He puts his heart and soul into everything. And so to get this constant rejection socially, I'm very teary now.
The problem is, all too often, people with autism are put straight in the too hard basket.
People will speak to him for a little bit, but then they don't follow up and they don't want to invest time in him. And people just need to give him that chance and get to know him, let him loosen up and relax, and the conversation will flow.
Film.
It's disgusting.
No, it's not for you. No. Oh, good. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
There are organisations that can help people with disability get a foot in the door. One of them is the Autism Association of WA, and they've helped James land an interview for a bar job at a top Perth hotel.
How's any advice probably could give me before the meeting?
Just be yourself, James. It's about you seeing if it's the kind of workplace that you want to work in, as well as them seeing if you're the right fit for them as well.
Oh.
No, feeling good. It's feeling pretty fresh and just ready to
go through the meeting and just see how it goes from there, I think.
Research shows that the main reason companies don't want to employ a person with disability is they think it will add an extra layer of cost. But the facts simply don't stack up.
Most people with disability probably don't need much additional adjustment. But those adjustments range from flexibility in work through to physical changes to the workplace. And I think employers often believe those things are too costly. They need to remember that the government actually has an employment assistance fund which will fund these changes to the workplace. And that's underutilised every single year, and a lot of employers don't know about it. And if we think about designing a workplace that's flexible, accessible, we are actually designing a workplace that's better for everyone.
Every part of employing people with disabilities adds to the workforce. But what we need is people to actually start. We need someone to put their hand up in any single job, any single workforce, and say, I'm going to create that change right now. It's 2 weeks since James had his interview, and he still hasn't heard back.
I actually thought it went pretty well, though. Would have been nice to get a call back, but...
Must be pretty disappointing getting it constantly.
Well, you know.
He gets judged all the time. You know, what's a big strapping boy like you? Why haven't you got a job? Because people just open up their mouth and let their belly rumble. You know, who knows why people aren't accepting? So they don't give people a chance unless you're one of those people that's that special person that says, you can belong, James, you can be one of us.
You're very qualified. Well, you're almost overqualified.
The next day, and still no news.
You've updated it with your RSA, you've got your first aid.
James Nelson speaking.
Hi James, it's Frankie calling from the Pan Pacific. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Have I caught you at a good time, James?
Yep, it's a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Firstly, apologies for the time delay. However, I would like to let you know that you have officially been offered a job with us at the Pan Pacific in the Hill Street Bar.
No, that's good.
Is that long?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, but thanks for the opportunity though. So
Yeah?
So
Can I take that as an acceptance?
yeah, that's acceptance. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, we are absolutely thrilled. We're really, really looking forward to getting you on board and involved with the team and everything that we're doing.
That sounds all right.
Bye.
Bye. No, she said it'd be a private number. This is the other
It's just so positive, fantastic.
He's been working so hard for this for such a long time. All he wants is independence, to be able to live in his own place and go travel the world, and this will really just open up those opportunities.
Well done, James.
Very proud of you.
You deserve it. You really deserve it. You've worked.
A month later, and James is behind the bar at the Pan Pacific Perth, a 5-star hotel with a strong track record of employing people with disability.
My experience working with people with disabilities and recommending it to other businesses, and not just hospitality or tourism businesses, is just do it. We've got a few people on the team that are autistic, and look, I think my own experience, what they bring to the table is this wonderful attention to detail. Our end goal is customer satisfaction, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And they're playing their part in that. They're part of the team.
And for James, that feeling of acceptance means the world.
In the past, because I didn't have a job, you probably feel ashamed, maybe. Because now I do, you can say, okay, I work here, this is what I do. Obviously, it's a bit of change. I'm not home, usually on a Friday, Saturday night, but it's all good enough. But it feels like over the moon type thing. It's just like, It means a lot, yeah.
Changing deeply ingrained attitudes around disability is tough. So some people are taking things into their own hands by putting disability out there for all to see on the internet.
I think a doctor said I was one of the 3 worst in the world. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
My childhood in Carcoar, New South Wales, was extremely happy. Disability wasn't even something I recognised. I remember playing bull rush around here, which is where you had a group of kids that needed to run to the other side and somebody was in the middle. And it seems like it's a lot smoother than what I remember it as well. I think Australia wants to be that country that gives everyone a fair go. And for me in particular, a kid who grew up crawling around the hills of Carcoar was given more than a fair go, was given an abundance of opportunity. But the fair go thing is, unfortunately, all you need is one person to be treated ill. All you need is that one person to be put in the back room, that one person to be the object of mockery and the object of, you know, ill will. That fair go doesn't feel quite as fair. I think sometimes the most important education around disability is presence. You need to have disability present. You need to have people with cerebral palsy, people who are visually impaired, people who are blind, cognitive disorders. You need to have all of that proudly displaying all of who they are in as many locations as possible and starting as young as possible. And here, the media has a hugely important role to play. But are we doing enough? We asked, do you agree with the following? The media does a good job representing people with disability.
Disagree.
Disagree.
Disagree. Disagree.
Disagree.
70% disagreed.
I think the media use disability in a tokenistic way.
We don't really see much disabled people on film industry. And if there is, you probably just see a guy sitting in a wheelchair, not moving at all. It's like, that's not how I move.
Quite concerned by disability portrayed in the media generally, many of whom are successful in employment, live normal lives. But that is not the image you get.
If you don't see yourself in popular culture, then it's almost as though you don't exist.
I'm surprised that 30% of people think there's good representation, because we know that's not true. We don't see people with the range of different types of disability. We don't see people with disability represented frequently. But the other problem is how people with disabilities are represented. We tend to see people with disabilities as represented as heroes or as tragic rather than just ordinary folk.
It's almost as if there are degrees of disability that we're comfortable with, that we've kind of had our moment of change and adopted, but there are still experiences of disability that community haven't learned to accept, truly understand as our peers. One type of disability rarely represented on our screens is Tourette's, a neurological condition that's believed to affect as many as 1 in 100 school children in Australia. But one bold vlogger has decided it's time to get Tourette's out there for all to see. On the internet.
Hi everybody, my name's Bianca Sayers and I'm 26 years old and I suffer with severe Tourette's syndrome. The whole point why I'm making this YouTube channel up, it's going to be called Be With The T, is because I need to create so much awareness and understanding.
The exact cause of Tourette's is unknown, but the most common symptoms include involuntary movements called tics. They can range from the mild, such as eye blinking or sniffing, to the extreme.
Fuck you, wanna fuck me, yeah? Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Oh, sorry. Fuck There's so many aspects of daily life that affects me, which I really get upset sometimes because my independence gets taken away. And I'm going to show you guys how hard it is for people with Tourette's. Just simply go and get a haircut. Whoa! Oh, shit! Sorry, girl. Three times OCD.
For her latest video, Bianca wants to show how difficult it is to do something most people take for granted. Go on a holiday.
I've always been a person to not let my Tourette stop me. I've always seemed to go out. But it's not good when there's people out there judging you and commenting. I've faced some awful people in my life, but I'm still positive and I'm still going to give it a go.
To make their film, Bianca and her boyfriend Zach have travelled to Tangalooma Island Resort off the coast of Brisbane.
This is amazing!
But straight away, Bianca's spotted a problem.
She's never lasted in my house, ever. I might just have to take this mirror down, babe, just because I don't want to smash it.
Yeah.
And it's just stuck to the wall. I feel pretty calm right now, but tics can come up, like my brainwaves could start going worse with my tics. So, you know, there's no way of me saying, yes, this will happen, because I never know. It's good that it's cement, so I don't... Oh, shit. Okay, it's not cement. I'm just worried about waking people up next door. I don't have enough money to pay for the damages sometimes, so it does worry me a lot, yeah. Now I'm just going to get comfy in my own space, have a little rest, and then we're going to go do some fun stuff. So catch you guys later.
That's exactly how you want to fall.
Good.
You alright?
You okay, baby? Oh.
Did you eat some sand?
Yeah. You okay, baby?
You alright?
There you go.
Oh my God, I hate my Tourette's. I just chucked a big shitload of sand in my mouth.
Bianca heads back to her room to take a break. But during the day, her tics have got worse.
Fuckheads. As you can see, I broke the bathroom mirror. One punch to the very middle. Yeah, people have tried to cardboard it up, but unfortunately it's fallen down. It's not the best, but what can I do? People think holidays relaxing and fun, but not so much for people like me.
It's the couple's last night in Tangalooma, and Bianca has one last chance to find a moment of peace from her condition at the evening's dolphin feed. But already Bianca's feeling stressed.
Fuck off! Everyone's loving the dolphins, and it just happens to be all the eyes are on me at the moment because I'm swearing and there's kids. So more people that gather around me, the more my Tourette's goes off, basically. I'm just going to look at it as a positive point, just saying I'm creating awareness, even though I'm really stressing out. I feel like I'm going to be really calm around them.
Alright, we ready? Let's do it. Let's head out there. I'll go get tickets early.
so beautiful. This is hands down one of the best things I've ever done. For some reason I noticed when I was around the dolphin, my Tourette stopped, which is amazing. So I just want to go back in there. I didn't think I'd ever get to go over to an island and do all this. Because I was in a mine when I was younger, when I got Tourette's. I won't be able to do a lot. Seriously, that just made me going through all the crap I've gone through today worthwhile. Because that was amazing. I think I'm going to dream about this for so long. I want to go back in there.
There's nothing harder in the world than putting a camera to what is perceived and being bombarded in you as a vulnerability and challenging people's perception. There's nothing harder to do. You know what the easiest thing to do around disability is lean into this idea that we are heroic. It's a lot harder to lean into the idea that we are made vulnerable by you. But what if people's perceptions around disability are so deeply ingrained that they're impossible to change?
People who don't know me, I guess, often present as a little bit shocked.
I feel terrible for what I said before now.
I grew up in a very small country town in Victoria. I had a very normal, low-key kind of upbringing.
In 2014, a very good friend of mine, Stella Young, gave a TED talk.
You know, I'm sitting on this stage, looking like I do, in this wheelchair, and you are probably kind of expecting me to inspire you, right?
She coined the phrase inspiration porn, and it really struck a chord with me. Disability is sometimes it's put in two camps, that there is this infantisation, that this person is experiencing life like they are a child and that they are, idealised as this innocent experience on life, or the inspirational moment. They are looking at this person and going, that's less than I am. I couldn't do less than that. I'd be shit there. Wow. That person's an inspiration. The idea that someone might look at a person with a disability and think they are somehow less than, I find it exhausting. I want to know how widespread these views are. In our survey, we asked, do you agree with the following? I feel sorry for people with disability.
Strongly agree.
Agree. I think that anyone that's living with a disability has challenges and struggles.
I would agree in a way, but I don't know if they would want to be felt sorry for.
Agree.
Strongly agree.
72% agreed.
I feel sorry for the person who's saying that. They're not living in the real world.
Well, I often get the empathy sorry look when people talk to me. Oh, you poor thing. What happened? Well, none of your business for a start.
I think it is human nature to make comparisons. I think it's a lack of education and assuming that our lives may in some way be different or worse than theirs.
What those statistics tell us is that pity is a pervasive emotion that people feel towards people with disabilities. People are assuming that people with disabilities aren't enjoying life and aren't having a good life.
How does any person, however they experience life, able to find enjoyment and validation in that life when they are the recipient of pity? Pity rips away at the heart of who a person can be and who a person believes that they are. All too often, views on disability aren't out in the open, but hidden away in the form of subconscious bias. I want to know whether it's possible to bring hidden prejudice right up to the surface and by doing so, change the way people think about disability for good.
The subconscious is incredibly powerful. It's like a memory bank, so it's full of our memories and life experiences and our attitudes and opinions towards things, and it also includes a lot of bias that we all have and we are all very much unaware of.
Taking part in our experiment are 4 people with disability and 8 members of the public who have no idea what's about to unfold.
So, when you first look at this photo, what are some words that come to mind? You always start by talking to people and showing them photos of people they find really easy to relate to.
Chilled, relaxed.
Content. She reminds me a lot of myself. She looks a little tired but super proud.
It's really easy when you start with the positives and slowly move into the more challenging kind of topics. They're open to exploring some of those attitudes by then. What's your first reaction when you see that photo?
Ooh, okay. This is an interesting one.
I don't know, this one perhaps harder to relate to.
Well, that's a tough one.
What the participants in the study don't know is that the people with disability are listening in next door.
People who don't know me, I guess, often present as a little bit shocked.
Watching people react to me, it's exciting. I love it.
What do you imagine her life would be like?
I imagine the day-to-day would be rather difficult.
Yeah, it is.
It would be a situation where she would have to get someone around to help her get around, possibly to clean herself, for example.
I do feel sorry for her. Looking by her eyes, assuming she has some sort of autism or something like that, or she's not completely there.
Would she work?
Well, probably not.
Certainly not full-time. I suspect sometime as a volunteer, perhaps on a support line.
I do some counselling, but not voluntary.
I think she would work. I think maybe on the computer.
I imagine that she would either be on some form of disability pension or she would work in an industry where she's volunteering.
It is quite hard what they're saying, because when they look at that photo, they see something completely different.
What could you see the two of you having in common?
Not much.
Unfortunate situations that have occurred in your life.
Unfortunate. Gee, thanks.
Life of struggling in isolation.
If you had a message for her, what would that be?
Don't give up.
Don't give up on what? Sorry, on life.
What would a day in the life be like for her?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm going to show you a video.
Excellent.
I'm Lois Oldie and I'm a jazz singer. And it was shocked. I first got lymphedema when I had my son, so the pregnancy overloaded my body. I was warned by the doctors what it would do to my legs. And I said, well, no, my son's more important. And though I'm small-framed, I've got another 80 kilos of a person with me. Looks like he's going to cry. My disability doesn't affect my voice. It just slows me down, that's all. Beautiful. I think she's a bit shocked.
I'm Julia Hales. I'm a leader. I'm a sister and auntie, but I'm an actor. Oh. I've got a great personality. Because I remember when Mum and Dad had told me that I have Down syndrome when I was 21 years old, and I didn't realise I had Down syndrome, because I'm the only one with Down syndrome in my family. I'd like to show you my amazing apartment that I lived in for nearly 20 years. So this is my brand new kitchen. I just had it renovated. I love cooking. Yeah, I love living independently here. I can do what I want, don't have anyone telling me what to do. I just like it when people just call me my first name instead of, oh, she's got Down syndrome. It's who I am, it's part of me.
Hi, I'm Ryan Hodge-Shooton.
And in 2014, in the World Blind Match Racing Championships, I was on the Australian blind team and we won gold. The things I'm most proud of in my sailing career would have to be completing the 2015 Sydney to Hobart. I can't, look at the speedo, I can't look at the compass and things like that. So it's just constantly taking in where the sun is, where the wind is, the heel of the boat, the noise of the water. That's just so enjoyable.
My name is Sophie Kay and I'm a settlement caseworker working with refugees and migrants. I support them on their journey in Australia. I have osteogenesis imperfecta, which basically means I have very brittle bones. I have fractured ribs by sneezing. The thing I find most frustrating is assumptions. So when people assume they know me, I'll tell people I work full-time and the feedback will be congratulations. And I look at all my friends and I'm saying, well, no one congratulated you for getting out of bed this morning, so why is it any different for me?
What do you think of that?
Yeah, sensational.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was awesome.
How would you describe the person in that video?
Just like someone like you and I, and hasn't allowed a unfortunate situation
Nice try.
give her any limitations.
She's very positive, like uplifting. She has a lot of strength and, yeah, perseverance.
An extremely brave and outgoing person. Just amazing personality, someone that you can connect to instantly.
I was completely off. She is happy, she's killing it. Yeah, I feel terrible for what I said before now.
So to change people's views, you do exactly what we're doing here. You bring them to the surface and you take them from being subconscious bias to conscious opinion. And you watch the brains tick when people realise that they perhaps have these biases that they've always been completely unaware of. What do you think her challenges might be?
People.
People.
Yeah, absolutely. People looking at someone in a wheelchair and immediately making their mind up.
People giving her, like, unnecessary, like, sympathy that, like, you wouldn't give to, like, everybody else.
Yes, yes, yes.
Challenges would be assumptions about what she can and can't achieve simply because of the fact that she has Down syndrome and being stereotyped.
I guess it's really difficult for an individual to shift preconceptions of what they think people are and what they think people do. And this is the real big challenge in the world today. It's not rushing to actually judge people.
If you had a message for her, what would it be?
When's your next gig?
Would you like to meet her?
Absolutely.
When they realise that they're next door, they've been on the journey, they've had those conversations, they've already worked out what they have in common, so they're just really excited to talk to them.
Nice to meet you.
And you too.
His messaging was great, but there were still the comments of, your situation and the unfortunate nature of being in a wheelchair and things. And, obviously that has its own challenges, but it's the only life I know, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's an unfortunate one.
I'm glad she picked up on the word that I used was unfortunate, because it did make me actually stop and think, is that correct? Because you're making an assumption before you've met the person.
I feel quite embarrassed by what I said to begin with. I think she's an amazing human being, and she proved me wrong in every single turn.
I love to have people in the world just to see me for me and see way past my disability. But I like it when they see me as Julia.
I actually felt a bit bad. I didn't want to come across as someone who sort of be too judgmental about someone. And this is the thing, you just really shouldn't judge a book by its cover.
His reaction was, I'd say, normal. They can feel sorry for me, but I reject people's sympathy. They've got to understand that I'm a strong, capable person.
I'd just like people to see me as Ryan who loves life, enjoys life to the fullest, and wants to take on any challenge that comes his way.
I think that Australia has a pretty complicated relationship with disability because we embrace and support and hold up our Paralympic champions. We're a little slower to move on the day-to-day experience around disability. We're a little slower to move upon making rooms accessible or inviting people with disabilities into the workforce. But there are signs that things are changing. A comprehensive Royal Commission is currently investigating abuse and neglect in the disabled community. It's due to deliver its findings in 2022. But there's still a long journey ahead. I hope that when somebody watches this, the dream would be for them to look around at their environment right now and ask, is disability represented? In my workplace, my kids' school? Is it represented in my local sporting club? 20% of community are out there with disabilities wanting to be a part of community. Why aren't they in yours?
Are we growing wiser or just older? Next Wednesday, host Noni Hazelhurst quizzes the nation to uncover and challenge our thoughts on ageing in the next must-watch episode of What Does Australia Really Think About Old People?